This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, November 21st, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Reaction to President Trump's sedition posts.
It's a general call for rebellion.
I'm Joan Jones.
The White House pushes a plan they believe can end the war between Russia and Ukraine, but does it have enough support? I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Federal investigators say the UPS plane that crashed in Kentucky had cracks in the left wing's engine mount. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The Trump administration announces plans for new oil drilling off the coasts of California and Florida. Ed Donahue, Washington.
On Wall Street, markets opened this morning after a dramatic swing and plunge for stocks yesterday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A federal judge chimes in on President Trump's National Guard deployments. I'm Clayton Neville.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump on Thursday called for the arrest of Democrat lawmakers he branded as traitors who publicly said that members of the U.S. military and intelligence communities can disobey any orders they perceive to be illegal. Correspondent Joan Jones reports on the president's response, which includes what Democrats' punishment should be, garnering sharp reactions from both sides of the aisle.
The video featuring 6 Democratic members of Congress encourages Americans serving in the military and intelligence community to refuse illegal orders.
Refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And the commander-in-chief hit back on Truth Social, calling seditious behavior punishable by death. And it's garnered sharp reaction from both sides. Here's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Let's be crystal clear. The President of the United States is calling for the execution of elected officials.
The president's deputy chief of staff, Stephen Miller, defending the president.
It is insurrection, plainly, directly, without question. It's a general call for rebellion from the CIA and the armed services of the United States by Democrat lawmakers, saying that you have not only the right, but the duty and the obligation to defy orders of the commander-in-chief.
Now, the video never specifies what those unlawful orders might be, but it arrives as U.S. military strikes have targeted alleged drug-carrying vessels in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific, and amid the Trump administration's use of National Guard troops in high-crime U.S. cities. While troops do have a specific obligation to reject an order that's unlawful, the U.S. Military Legal Code, known as the Uniform Code of Military Justice, will punish troops for failing to follow an order should it turn out to be lawful. Rank-and-file troops rarely have military lawyers with whom they can consult, but their commanders do. Meantime, in a press briefing, Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt denied that President Trump wanted to literally execute members of Congress, but suggested some legal action should be taken.
That active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do, and they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see.
I'm Joan Jones.
White House officials release a 28-point plan negotiated between the U.S. and Russia with the goal of ending the Ukraine war. But critics, many of them European allies, say it appears to heavily favor Russian interests. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt at her briefing on Thursday touted the plan as the best hope so far for an end to the long-running war between the two nations.
Special Envoy Witkoff, that Marco Rubio, have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally. U.S.
Army Secretary Dan Driscoll was in Kyiv to brief Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the details of the draft. After the meeting, Zelensky was non-committal and said the United States has a key role to play. The United States has the power to ensure that Russia's willingness to end the war finally becomes serious. In the deal, Russia promises to make no future attacks on Ukraine, and it would also include other security guarantees, but would not require the U.S. or European allies to intervene on Ukraine's behalf should Russia go back on their word. It would also earmark $100 billion of frozen Russian assets to be used for Ukrainian reconstruction. But the deal would also bar Ukraine from entering NATO. It would cede territory to Russian President Vladimir Putin, specifically areas of the Donbas region he has unsuccessfully tried to take on the battlefield. And it would lift sanctions on Russia in stages and on a case-by-case basis. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says they need to be on board with any peace deal.
The pressure must be on the aggressor, not on the victim. Rewarding aggression will only invite more of it.
Republican Congressman Don Bacon says the deal appears to heavily favor Russia.
To negotiate with Russia without having Ukraine involved, that smells a lot like Munich of 1938.
Levitt disagrees.
It's a good plan for both Russia and Ukraine, and we believe that it should be acceptable to both sides, and we're working very hard to get it done.
John Stolnis, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. It's the Sleep Number Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with cozy, soothing comfort. Save on mattress and base bundles, plus free premium delivery. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. Trump plans for oil drilling off the coasts of Florida and California. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Less than a week now until Thanksgiving. Here's today's national outlook with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
After Wednesday and Thursday brought some severe weather to parts of Texas and Oklahoma, along with repeated rounds of heavy rain, the storm responsible for this active second half of the week heads to the east, meaning that the risk for severe thunderstorms will follow along into portions of the South and the Ohio Valley for this afternoon and into tonight. The area facing the highest risk for especially potent storms covers far eastern Arkansas and part of the Boot Heel of Missouri, western Kentucky, all but eastern Tennessee, and areas near and north of I-20 and I-59 from Mississippi through Alabama. Storms may be capable of strong winds of at least 50 to 60 miles per hour and some hail. Even outside that risk for severe weather, the same storm will have a rather large footprint for today's wet weather chances, with showers of rain and snow in store through the early part of the day across southeastern Wyoming and the majority of Colorado, but steadier rain at times from around the Kansas-Nebraska border eastward toward the nation's capital, with showers right through the mid-Atlantic coast. There can be a lingering spotty thunderstorm early today from western Arkansas through parts of southeast Texas and adjacent parts of Louisiana as well, but residents of much of Florida, plus Georgia and South Carolina, have a dry Friday in store as it stays quite warm into the start of the weekend. A storm mainly over Canada brings some rain to northern parts of New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire today, but the rest of the Northeast looks dry through the daylight hours. There can be a bit of snow over parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan, but it's looking dry today from the Great Lakes through much of the Northwest. In Bangor, Maine, today brings a mix of clouds and sun, the high 44. For Vail, Colorado, a coating to an inch of wet morning snow gives way to some sunshine for the afternoon hours, high 46. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Shocking images have been released by the National Transportation Safety Board as to what may have caused this month's UPS airplane crash in Kentucky. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
Federal investigators say the UPS plane that crashed in Kentucky and killed 14 people had cracks in the left wing's engine mount. A series of 6 photos the National Transportation Safety Board released showed the rear of the engine starting to detach before it flew up and over the wing as flames erupted. The next image shows the wing engulfed by flames as the burning engine flies above it. The final image shows the plane starting to get airborne. But the NTSB says the MD-11 plane only got 30 feet off the ground. 3 pilots on the plane were killed along with 11 people on the ground near Muhammad Ali International Airport. The NTSB says the plane wasn't due for a detailed inspection of key engine mount parts that had fractures. The entire fleet of MD-11s operated by UPS, FedEx, and Western Global, along with a few related DC-10s, were grounded after the crash until they can be inspected and repaired. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The Trump administration unveiled new plans for huge oil drilling expansion off the coasts of Florida and California. Details from correspondent Ed Donahue.
The Trump administration announces plans for new oil drilling off the coasts of California and Florida. President Trump wants to expand oil production that is already leading the world.
Drill we must. I call it drill, baby, drill.
The government has not allowed drilling in federal waters in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, which includes Florida, since 1995 because of the possibility of oil spills. California has some offshore oil rigs, but there has been no new leasing in federal waters since the mid-1980s. Critics say drilling could harm coastal communities. Florida Senator Rick Scott, a Trump ally, wants to maintain a moratorium on offshore drilling. California Governor Gavin Newsom says expensive and riskier offshore drilling would put communities at risk and undermine economic stability. Ed Donahue, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, new jobs report numbers and crypto weighs down the stock markets after these messages. The Business Report is sponsored by Gusto. Gusto's a simple online payroll and benefits tool built for small businesses. Learn more at gusto.com/radio. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Friday Business Report.
Wall Street opens this morning after a wild day for the markets yesterday. Stocks swung nearly 1,000 points. At first, the Dow was up 700 points, gave up that gain, and closed down almost 400. Shares of NVIDIA fizzled yesterday. It was the biggest market reversal since last April.
Look, we all know there's been a lot of talk about an AI bubble, and this can be somewhat self-fulfilling. But I'm not convinced that this is a bubble that's about to burst. I think it's a bubble that's losing some air, so maybe it won't burst.
Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni on CNBC. Here's Payne Capital's Courtney Garcia.
So Bitcoin being down is very correlated with the overall markets being down. That is part of your risk on trade. And also you had some Fed speak today where they were coming out and saying they see downside risk to the markets as well. I think you just had a combination of those things and people are just taking their profits.
Crypto with a dramatic fall yesterday. Bitcoin down toward 87,000.
Look, it's frustrating to have to come on air and share what is actually right now unfolding. And it really relates to cryptocurrencies, the continued decline that we're seeing there. Ethereum, Bitcoin, they both rolled over in the middle of the day, took the market down, the equities market down with the crypto market.
Virtus Investments' Joe Terranova on CNBC. The September jobs report, delayed in the government shutdown, came in with the U.S. adding a better than expected 119,000 jobs. But the employment rate in September did go up, now sitting at 4.4%. Walmart with strong quarterly results. It's been attracting consumers looking for value across all income levels.
The retailer is upping its full-year forecast for sales and earnings for the second time, now expecting revenues to grow between 4.8 and 5.1%. Now, U.S. comparable store sales grew 4.5%. That's bettering analysts' 4% estimate. Also, the 45th straight quarter of growth.
CNBC's Courtney Reagan. On today's watch list, the Thanksgiving travel period begins, including the frying frenzy after the government shutdown. We get earnings from BJ's Wholesale. We get the latest on consumer sentiment. The Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix festivities are on ahead of tomorrow night's race. It's 1 week to Black Friday. And new in theaters, Searchlight's Rental Family and Universal's Wicked for Good. Universal is a sister company to CNBC.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, more pink slips for the holidays after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. A federal judge is blocking President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C., correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
In early September, President Trump surged law enforcement to Washington, D.C., including National Guard troops. It was part of his effort to crack down on crime. This week, federal district judge Gia Cobb said that the administration exceeded the bounds of its authority in the way it deployed National Guard troops in D.C., and the judge said the administration acted contrary to law when they deployed the Guard for non-military crime deterrence missions. In addition to that, the judge found the Trump administration lacked statutory authority to deploy the Guard to D.C. The president, though, stands by his move. After the judge's ruling this week, Judge Cobb delayed her order, which essentially allows the Trump administration 21 days to file an appeal. I'm Clayton Neville.
Just in time for the holidays, a major telecommunications company is handing out pink slips. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez reports.
Verizon will be laying off more than 13,000 employees as part of a major company reorientation. The cuts began Thursday, according to a staff memo from CEO Dan Schulman, who says Verizon's current cost structure limits investment, especially in customer experiences. A spokesperson confirmed these layoffs account for about 20% of the company's management workforce, which isn't unionized. The telecommunications giant had nearly 100,000 full-time employees as of the end of last year. On top of the cuts, the company plans to significantly reduce outsourced and other outside labor expenses. Schulman says Verizon had established a $20 million reskilling and career transition fund for workers departing the company. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
America in the Morning for Friday, November 21st, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
President Trump is ripping 6 Democrat lawmakers for their video message to troops. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
The funeral was held at Washington's National Cathedral for former Vice President Dick Cheney.
They do not come any better than Dick Cheney.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Tension among judges following the ruling on congressional maps in Texas. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. Border Patrol is monitoring millions of American drivers nationwide. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More Epstein-related allegations against Larry Summers. Fire at the climate conference. The DOJ investigating the investigators. And the holiday smells of the subway. Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. The month is winding down, so is the Atlantic hurricane season. With today's outlook, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The focus for steady rain pulls a bit away from the Southern California coast as a storm continues to spin just off the coast, while the core of that storm generally heads toward Mexico into the start of the weekend. Enough of its moisture and energy push on shore to bring some steadier rain to much of interior Southern California, especially north of the high ground around Los Angeles and well east of Santa Barbara. Places like LA and perhaps even Bakersfield can still get some showers, but from the mountains east of San Diego northward toward parts of the I-15 corridor, it could be raining much of the time today as the storm gradually shifts to the southeast. To the east of there, a storm that brought 2 days of severe weather to parts of the plains finally makes some progress to the east, taking that severe risk eastward with it into some areas of the south. AccuWeather severe weather experts are highlighting the area from around Jackson, Mississippi, northward through western Kentucky, and as far to the east as northern Alabama, as a zone where storms this afternoon and tonight can produce hail and damaging winds, all without as high of a tornado risk as was the case for Thursday night. Part of a rather large storm that will pick up some speed as it lifts to the north and east today, bringing some rain and snow showers early to much of Colorado and periods of rain from Kansas and southern Nebraska eastward through central and southern Illinois, parts of Ohio and Virginia, even into North Carolina, spotty showers toward Maryland and into the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Another storm crossing southern Canada from Ontario to Quebec brings rain and drizzle to portions of northern New York and northern New England today, as rain and snow showers end over far northern Michigan. But for parts of the north and into the northwest, it's looking like a dry end to the week. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Democrats are outraged after President Trump brands 6 of their colleagues as displaying seditious behavior that's punishable by death after posting a message on social media telling members of the military they can refuse to carry out illegal orders. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani is following the story.
President Trump is ripping 6 Democrat lawmakers for their video message to troops. All 6 are either military or intelligence community veterans. Their message: uphold the Constitution.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
On social media, the president says they're traitors whose seditious behavior is punishable by death. Here at the White House,
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful.
Spokeswoman Caroline Levitt says he does not actually mean they should be killed, but rather held accountable for encouraging troops to defy the chain of command.
The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging.
Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer says the president's own words may do just that.
When Donald Trump uses the language of execution and treason, some of his supporters may very well listen. He is lighting a match in a country soaked with political gasoline.
Sagar Meghani at the White House.
2 former presidents were in Washington, D.C. Thursday for the funeral of Dick Cheney, who passed away earlier this month. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on a goodbye to a former vice president, White House chief of staff, special assistant, and secretary of defense, serving in the White House for 4 different presidents.
25 years ago, I had a big choice to make. A big job to fill. I want to know all my options, so I enlisted the help of a distinguished former White House Chief of Staff and Secretary of Defense to lead my search for running mate. Dick Cheney and I went through the files name by name. We talked over the various qualities I was looking for in a vice president. Above all, I wanted someone with the ability to step into the presidency without getting distracted by the ambition to seek it. After weeks of these meetings, I began to have a thought I could not shake. I realized the best choice for the vice president was the man sitting right in front of me.
The funeral was held at Washington's National Cathedral for former Vice President Dick Cheney.
History should record that I chose my vice president not once, but twice. In 2004, he offered to step aside in case I wanted to replace him. I thought about it for a while, but after 4 years of seeing how he treated people, how he carried responsibility, how he handled pressure and took the hits, I arrived back at the conclusion that they do not come any better than Dick Cheney.
Former President George W. Bush described Cheney as funny and easygoing, a style his public image never caught up with. But he wasn't your standard issue politician.
If any voters came hoping for a kind word and a hug, they'd have to settle for the kind word.
All of us who loved him so dearly say to him, "Good night, sweet dad."
Cheney and his daughter Liz, a former congresswoman, were caught up in a feud with President Trump over the Capitol riot investigation.
Though he was inspired to service by President Kennedy, Dick Cheney became a Republican. But he knew that bonds of party must always yield to the single bond we share as Americans.
President Trump was not at the funeral. He wasn't invited. Ed Donahue, Washington.
More fallout over a ruling to block recently approved congressional maps in Texas. Details from correspondent Clayton Neville.
The maps would allow Texas 5 additional Republican seats in next year's midterms. They caused controversy nationwide when Democrats broke quorum in Texas to bring the conversation on redistricting to the forefront. California voters reacted by voting to redraw their maps to favor Democrats. This week, though, a ruling by a 3-judge panel in El Paso blocked the maps, forcing Texas to use previous congressional maps in the midterms. The way the ruling was made public is not sitting well with the panel. Dissenting Judge Jerry Smith accused Judge Jeffrey Brown, who authored the majority opinion, of not wanting to consider his dissent before going public with the ruling. Smith called that, quote, pernicious judicial misbehavior, which he said is the most outrageous conduct by a judge he's ever seen.
I have never seen a judgment, an opinion so erroneous in its writing.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott spoke about the ruling with Fox News.
It looked like Judge Brown geared his writing to try to achieve a result, and that's something that the United States Supreme Court, I think, is just not going to tolerate.
The ruling said Texas's maps are racially gerrymandered.
The map that was drawn that's temporarily on hold would give more seats to whites, but the impact that it has to people of color is greater, and it's negative, and it's a violation of the United States Constitution.
State Democratic Rep Nicole Collier helped lead the Texas quorum break over the maps.
The sentiment that House Democrats had that the maps were going to discriminate against voters of color was validated in the decision from the Trump-appointed judge.
Texas appealing the three-judge panel's decision. Republican leaders in Texas adamantly deny that the maps are discriminatory. I'm Clayton Neville.
New Epstein-related charges against the former president of Harvard University. And IBM and Cisco team up to imagine a new internet. Those stories and more after these messages. More disturbing details being released regarding the connection between former Harvard University President Lawrence Summers and Jeffrey Epstein. The Harvard Crimson newspaper reports during his honeymoon in 2005, Summers and his new wife flew to the Caribbean and made a stop at the late convicted sex offender's private island. They report also aboard that same flight, Ghislaine Maxwell. The news comes one day after Summers announced he's stepping away from his Harvard teaching assignment, which came less than 24 hours after Harvard launched their own investigation into Summers. The UN says over a dozen people were treated for smoke inhalation from a fire at a climate talks in Brazil. Jennifer King reports.
A fire disrupted the COP30 United Nations climate talks in Brazil, forcing the evacuation of several buildings. In video provided by Catherine Ellis, flames climbed in the background as security guards blew whistles. Gabby Andrade says a security guard had to show her the way out.
Everybody was walking out, and I saw smoke, a black smoke.
The fire was in an area of pavilions where sideline events are held and delayed proceedings while security and fire officials made safety checks. With the conference ending soon, negotiators have yet to announce any major agreements. Secretary General Antonio Guterres is asking rich countries to triple the amount of money pledged to help poor countries adapt to worsening climate change.
Communities on the front lines are watching too, counting flooded homes, failed harvests, lost livelihoods, and asking how much more must we suffer. They have heard enough excuses. They demand results.
I'm Jennifer King.
The Department of Justice is probing the conduct of at least two top Trump administration officials for allegedly interfering with and potentially jeopardizing the ongoing criminal investigations into California Senator Adam Schiff and New York Attorney General Letitia James. The DOJ and FBI are scrutinizing whether U.S. Pardon Attorney Ed Martin and Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte enlisted individuals outside the Department of Justice to probe allegations of mortgage fraud each are facing. ABC News is reporting that Martin is believed to have shared sensitive grand jury information about the James case with at least one unauthorized individual. FBI agents working on the Schiff case discovered the potential problem when interviewing a realtor who first publicized the allegations of mortgage fraud against Schiff. America in the Morning continues. If you think you're being followed, you may not be too far off base. Lisa Dwyer reports that millions of drivers in the United States are being monitored for suspicious travel patterns, a task being undertaken by the government and U.S. Border Patrol.
The U.S. Border Patrol is monitoring millions of American drivers nationwide in a secretive mass surveillance program to identify and detain people whose travel patterns are deemed suspicious. The Predictive Intelligence Program includes a network of cameras that scan and record vehicle license plates. An algorithm then flags vehicles deemed suspicious based on where they came from, where they were going, and which route they took. Readers are often disguised along highways in traffic safety equipment like drums and barrels. Legal scholars are raising violation concerns of the Fourth Amendment, which protects people from unreasonable searches. The Border Patrol's parent agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, say they use the license plate readers to help identify threats and disrupt criminal networks. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Tech giants IBM and Cisco are teaming up with the goal to build a new internet capable of supporting near light-speed transmissions for quantum computers. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
Quantum computers today are powerful, error-prone, power-hungry giant monsters sitting in freezer tanks. But thanks to new algorithms and software tricks that let you run quantum simulations on regular laptops, this won't be the case for long. This begs a need for a faster, high-capacity internet. And that's exactly what IBM and Cisco are teaming up to provide by 2030. IBM is already gunning for a fully operational, fault-tolerant quantum system by 2029, and Cisco is opening a quantum networking lab to provide the backbone for these systems to work. This lofty goal could be the birth of distributed quantum computing that could rewrite chemistry, material sciences, and even cybersecurity forever. There is one pretty big catch: turning stationary quantum bits into flying microwaves that can zip through existing fiber optic cables on an aging, already outdated internet is a Herculean task. For more, follow me on X @ChuckPalm.
Here's Friday Sports with our Robert Workman.
NFL Week 12 kicked off last night in Houston. The Texans took down the Bills 23-19. The defense sacked Josh Allen 8 times, and Kalen Bullock forced 3 turnovers all by himself, a fumble and 2 interceptions. Coach D'Amico Ryans.
They understand the moment, and they're ready for those moments. And they went out and they proved, why they're ready for those moments. Everybody was calm. Everybody played together.
Davis Mills threw 2 scoring passes for his 3rd straight win while filling in for C.J. Stroud, who's still in concussion recovery. On the ice, Alex Ovechkin's hat trick helped the Capitals clock the Canadiens 8-4. The Great Eight scored a minute after the opening faceoff on a power play, then added 2 third-period goals for his 33rd career hatter. That ties Brett Hull for 4th all-time. Teammate Ethan Frank.
That third one went in on empty net, and the whole bench is just, that's nuts, that's crazy, it's wild. We're still amazed at it. After everything he's done, we're still amazed at what he can do, and I'm sure he's not close to slowing down.
The all-time goals leader also moved ahead of Joe Sakic into 10th place on the career points list. The league-leading Avalanche rocked the Rangers 6-3 for their 7th consecutive win. Colorado has played 20 games this season and earned points in 19 of them. Islanders blanked the Red Wings. Ilya Sorokin stopped 29 shots. Sergei Bobrovsky made 31 saves as the Panthers shut out the Devils. Wins for the Lightning, Blue Jackets, Flyers, Sharks, Kraken, Senators, Golden Knights, and Stars. NBA Tyrese Maxey scored a career-high 54 as the Sixers got past the Bucks 123-114 in overtime. The Grizzlies ground up the Kings. 8 straight losses for Sacramento. Wins for the Spurs and the Magic. And college hoops wins for number 1 Purdue and number 2 Houston. That's Friday Sports.
When America in the Morning continues, a very wicked time at the theater after these messages. With Thanksgiving next week, you can expect a number of blockbuster movies to be released as the holidays near. Wicked gets its finale, but it's a good deed gone unpunished. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Wicked for Good.
After a year-long intermission, the second part of Broadway's Wicked finally soars onto screen.
Bring me the room of the Wicked Witch of the West.
Wicked for Good wraps up the story of Elphaba, a misfit in the land of Oz who has been branded a villain.
It's the Wicked Witch!
Her friend Galinda has become a leader of Oz and must end the feud.
I'm a public figure now. People expect me to lie. Be encouraging.
Like the first part, the strength of the movie is the chemistry between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, along with some visionary production design.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. No one believed in you more than I did.
However, also like its predecessor, this film suffers from being only half a movie. The split results in a convoluted plotline filled with relentless padding.
I'm off to see the wizard.
Plus, the characters are so shallow and childish that I ceased caring for the Ozians mere minutes into the movie.
The Wicked Witch can't elude us forever.
Wicked for Good is a bucket of contradictions, feeling rushed yet plotting, both crowded and vacuous.
You can wave that wand all you want, but you have no real power.
It bends over backwards to tie directly to the Wizard of Oz, yet other times feels flippant and forced.
Here's the plan. I have no plan.
Well, I do.
Oh, thank God.
Die-hard fans will likely be enthralled, but like so many other films needlessly split, this one is just unnecessary.
Stop this. It's gone too far.
Wicked for Good gets 2 broomsticks out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Anyone who grew up in New York City knows that every possible smell can be found underground in the city's massive subway system, and usually some of those smells have you holding your nose and hoping your eyes don't start tearing. However, as correspondent Donna Warder reports, in one subway station you'll find the smell of the holidays, and subway riders seem to be enjoying it.
New York City's Grand Central subway station smells, but not like it usually does. Bath & Body Works is pumping a fragrance into the 42nd Street shuttle train platform. Commuters describe the smell as vanilla and fresh pine. Jerome Murray is enjoying it.
It smells better than the normal New York City tunnels that we normally smell here, so yeah, I appreciate it.
Mari Shellen says it smells like the holidays.
It really felt like Christmas. And I think it would be so nice for the holiday season.
Diffusers are attached to a steel girder over the subway platform and along the walls of a connecting tunnel. Bath & Body Works says it will have sprayed some 20 to 30 pounds of fragrance in the subway by the time the campaign ends at the end of November. I'm Donna Warder.
America in the Morning for Friday, November 21st, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.